Francini, colleagues, sorry for a technical question. Shall we wait for the WUVA platform to start projecting the video before starting?
It's already doing so. So everyone who's connected through WOVA is already connecting. So no need to wait further.
Okay, fantastic. Well, then I think that we can start this. We can kickstart the session. And good morning, everyone, and welcome to the ECOSOC Partnership Forum event on enabling multi-stakeholder partnerships for sustainable development at local level. First of all, a huge thanks to the colleagues of UNDESA that have made this forum possible and that really helped in putting together the logistics, but also the substance of this side event. Secondly, a warm welcome from the organizers of the event, UN Habitat, the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, and the local 2030 coalition. These events really aims to contribute to the reflection launched by DESA through the consultation, to the reflection the local 2030 is bringing forward on how we can think and mainstream the work of local regional governments, of local communities, of local action for the localization of for the implementation of the SDGs at local level, also in the future, and very important events that we have ahead in this 2022. And I'm thinking, of course, about the high-level political forum and all the very important and key events that will set the international community agenda. But let's focus on what we have today. And we have today a great panel of made of speakers coming from all over the world, from different levels of governments, international organizations. I will introduce them in a second, but first a couple of housekeeping rules. And first of all, after 2 years of let's say virtual world, please keep your microphone muted if you're not speaking, and your cameras off if you're not speaking, so that the speakers can appear on the screen. You can connect to this session both through Zoom as well as through WUVA platform, the official WUVA platform that the ECOSOC is using for the Partnership Forum. We are only able to take chats and questions from the WUVA platform. So please, I recommend all participants to put their questions on the WUVA platform so that we can take them in case the speakers will have the time to reply to them. So and use the chat also for technical difficulties. We have a great support team, technical support team that will help you. Okay, then why are we talking about multi-stakeholder and partnerships today? Well, I think that first of all, because the 2030 agenda tells us to do so. If you think about and if we look at the SDGs, we have a key SDGs, which is the SDG 17. In consideration the partnership for the implementation of the goals as that enabling approach, as that enabling action for the implementation of the whole set of goals. And we have to take that very much into consideration. If we look at the targets of that specific goal, we will see that member states, when endorsing the 2030 agenda, were thinking about policy coherence, about multi-stakeholder, about how to engage with the different international community that is advancing, I would say, sustainable development together in order to create that harmony for the SDGs to be implemented in a sustainable, inclusive way for the future. That's why we want today to talk about multi-level and multi-stakeholder partnerships. Also because now we are 7 years into the implementation of the SDGs. And clearly, we have seen, and it's widely acknowledged, that without local leadership and without local action, the implementation of the SDGs is not going to be possible. The 65% of SDG targets are directly or indirectly related to the mandate and mission of local and regional governments. And we have seen that the key innovation is actually coming from the local level. Those ideas that are transformative and that really are bringing the SDGs into reality for communities and that are changing and that are impacting the way and the life standards of our communities come from the local level. That is why today I think it's important that we talk about how do we harness the potential of these experiences, how do we scale them up at the subnational and national level, and which is the role of the multi-level and the multilateral, scenario to actually make the most out of these experiences. And it's great that we have now the Local 2030 Coalition that offers a platform to do so. But without further ado, let me introduce you our panelists today. We have Nicolas Garbi, Principal Advisor of Madrid City Council, of course, from Madrid. Mr. Felipe Braga Farhat, Partnership Liaison for the 2030 Agenda within FEDES, which is the Economic and Social Development Council of the Paraná State in Brazil. We have Laura Kam, the Local 2030 Island Network Coordinator for the Hawaii Local 2030 Hub, and Minerva Novero, Policy Specialist within UNDP's Bureau for Development Policy. So great panel from different levels, bringing different perspectives, and I hope that you are looking forward as much as I do to hear what our panelists have to say. Again, participants, please remember to put your questions in the WUVA platform. I will like at this point to kickstart the panel by addressing Nicolas first. Nicolas, I think that we have been in many panels, many different sessions in the past year, months, and discussing how to localize the SDGs, what the city of Madrid is doing. Actually, Madrid is one of the first pilot cities that is implementing the Global Urban Monitoring Framework. You are now looking at how to develop a voluntary local review, and you have recently developed an important strategy for the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. In this whole process where you are trying to bring the SDGs and the 2030 Agenda, mainstreaming it, I would say, into your strategic planning, how do you ensure that no one is left behind? How do you create those partnerships at local level where you bring the different stakeholders into this decision-making process? And are the SDGs helping you to do so? I mean, is the Local 2030 Agenda a tool that you see is helping you in bringing those stakeholders together, or is actually maybe making it even more difficult? Over to you, Nicolas.
Thank you very much, Martino, and thank you actually to all the organizers, because actually it's very important for us to have this space in ECOSOC. I think it's a very important space, and also step toward a very let's say, I would say, a critical agenda for local authorities this year in the UN system. So thank you. It's very important for us to start in ECOSOC. I mean, a lot of questions. First of all, I would say that in the case of Madrid, what we define a multi-stakeholder, that it's quite wide buzzword even, we cannot understand the multi-stakeholders without multi-level perspective. So let's say we take the two dimensions always together. On one end, ensure the necessary consistency with the actions, and in this case, even a type of partnership that have the level of governance in which we are embedded. needed. In our case is, of course, the European Union, the central government and the region. And then, of course, we play with the actors, starting from our territorial partners, I would say, but also playing with the partners that we can have directly or indirectly at other level of governance. So it's very important to maintain the two dimensions, let's say the multi-stakeholder and multi-level, because in reality they're kind of two axes, an horizontal one and a vertical one. So this is an important point for us. Of course, the 2030 agenda, the new urban agenda in the case of our city, because it's the relevant one, are not bringing this the multi-stakeholder approach as a novelty, but because actually we already, of course, as all the territories base our work on partnerships, but it's true that it gave us the opportunity, thanks to this common language, these common metrics that are reflected in the 2030, to actually put together partnerships that normally were not working together. So it's an opportunity to create new synergies in terms of partnerships, thanks to this common language and metrics that provide us the 2030 agenda. So this is it's the let's say added value. Now, how we proceed? We proceeded actually starting, of course, with a mapping of the actors and the structures of dialogues that were already existing. So, of course, the will was to involve, it's not easy to categorize, but to make it very, very basic. The private sector, the academia, civil society, including NGOs, etc., and our grassroots and neighborhood association, not just to make it very, very, very easy, but of course it's much more complex. So actually, in reality, for each type of partnership, we were already counting on some spaces formally structured of dialogue. What we needed to do was actually to create and propose a methodology for these different partnerships that were already existing to work together in a new framework, but actually explaining, because this was actually, let's say, a bottleneck that was present, that we were not asking to do additional work, but actually we were there just to channel the already existing work and translate it. And this is the first step, let's say, translate what they were doing in terms of contribution of SDGs in the work that the municipality as municipality is doing. In this sense, we passed from localization to territorialization of SDGs. And let's say the first step was actually very easy theoretically. That is the following: we have a municipality. We have done our work of alineation of the objective of and budget, policy objective and budget of the municipality with the one of the 2030 agenda. So actually, we are asking to our partners through this common co-created methodology to channel their contribution to the implementation of SDGs, but following the alignment of the city. So it's not the general partner, I don't know, private enterprise or academia to the 2030 agenda. No, is the partner contributing to how the municipality is contributing to the 2030 agenda. No? And so that's what I call territorialization in, let's say, a structured, legitimate, and transparent, let's say, manner. Because this actually, and here, let's say, is the step that we were still not in it, but that we foresee in the next years, that is actually maybe the most interesting thing for the city itself. That is the following. if we are able to create a space of dialogue that can join together different typology of partnership of the city in the territory. And we can quantify, and so that's why metrics are fundamental. Otherwise, I mean, a partnership will not be sustainable. So if we can measure the real contribution of a partner to the public policies and investment, this can create a new type of partnership. So that's the interesting, let's say, aspect. Just to make an example, if I have an enterprise operating in the territory of the municipality that is investing in projects that are actually contributing to, I don't know, reduce CO2, just to say a big priority of the city, but this is registered, is recorded first of all and recognized first of all in this SDG work, and even maybe reflect in a VLR, etc. But actually, the interesting part could be that we have applied metrics that gave us the possibility to have an evidence to maybe recognize and give something in return to the partner, in the sense that this investment can be recognized in the form of, I don't know, priority criteria in public procurement, can be recognized in some fiscal measures that can favorize this type of investment, etc. And the same applies for NGOs operating in the territory, etc. So we see the process, again, of localization as a great opportunity to reinforce the work of the municipality, and for this we thought that it was much more fruitful to enlarge the action from localization to territorialization in the sense that I have mentioned. Of course, the big challenge here, I guess I don't have more time. It's very important to have a methodology to propose together, of course, with a chronogram, and then to validate it together. That's an important thing, and especially not create a new structure, but building up on the existing one. So this is for us at the end. It's an accelerator of our work and a possibility to improve our policies and investment at municipal level.
Thanks a lot, Nicolas. Very, very insightful comments and experiences as usual. I really like the transition from localization to territorialization, and the fact that you mentioned the work that is happening horizontally as well as vertically with the stakeholders at territorial level, with the different spheres of government. And as far as I understood, really the SDGs are giving you this possibility of gathering your territorial stakeholders around your strategies and to channel their intervention towards the city strategy that ultimately is aimed at implementing the SDGs. So really, it's the power of the local government in gathering the territory, in implementing the SDGs. So this local action that goes directly to the global one. Thanks a lot, Nicolas. And we will come back to a couple of issues that you have mentioned. I'm switching now to another panelist, Mr. Felipe Braga Fahart, Partnership Liaison Officer for the 2030 Agenda within the Paraná State Council for Economic and Social Development. Felipe, I think that listen to what Nicolas is saying from the city perspective. Now, in the case of Paraná, national governments are kind of the bridge, the bridge gap between the central government and local communities. And Paraná has identified a very comprehensive strategy for localizing the sustainable development goals. And at the same time, Paraná is also one of the hubs of the local 2030 coalition. Based on, in your experience, we have heard from Nicolas a bit of the practices. From a subnational government perspective, how can you facilitate the creation of partnerships among different stakeholders and specifically across levels? How the subnational government can facilitate this? And in your work, are these partnerships helping you in implementing the 2030 agenda? Over to you, Felipe.
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you and greetings, everyone. First of all, on behalf of the government of Paraná State, I want to thank the UN Habitat team for this opportunity, especially Francine, who invited me to this event. We recognize the UN Habitat's work in engaging cities. It's an honor and a great joy for me as a partnerships liaison for the 2030 agenda to be able to share some examples, some of our state's experience in implementing our local agenda. And of course, I'm also excited to learn from my fellow colleagues here. I really appreciate, Nicholas, what you said about it doesn't matter what university or some enterprise are doing, but what they are doing related to the municipalities. This is a very good point. I'm Philippe Farhat, and I work on the Paraná State Council for the Economic and Social Development, which we call by its acronym SEDES. And this council is chaired by the state governor, Mr. Carlos Massa, and coordinated by its vice president, Ms. Kelly Guimarães, who I advise. Our council is made up of all secretaries, and the its mission is implementing the local agenda. Initially, I must say we didn't start in 2015. I must say the Paraná has already made significant commitments to Agenda 21, which was launched during the Earth Summit held here in Brazil in 1992, followed by significant engagements during the MDG period. With regards to enabling multi-sectoral partnerships for the sustainable development at the local level, our topic for today, I'd like to divide our story into two parts. Firstly, we decided to internalize most of our partnerships with the objective of providing a clear structure. In fact, our first step was to create a team made up with the key actors for what we need at that time. And we developed Paraná with an eye on the SDGs strategy. Then we call upon our Paraná State company responsible for producing socioeconomic data to develop a framework of local indicators aimed to the SDGs. Another state company developed a business intelligence tool so that we can show each and every mayor in Paraná, in almost a playful way, a picture of his or her own municipality in relation to the scope to the SDGs. Regarding this, every 6 months we produce a report called SDG Mission for each mayor to follow up. Our IT company has also developed a best practice portal where any citizen, university, company, or government agency can share what they are doing related to the achievement of the global goals. They also helped us to develop a program called SDG Art, and I will give you 2 examples of how it works. Personally, I participate of these 2 examples, and I really appreciate it. Firstly, we called upon 17 talent painters from Paraná State and asked each one to choose a goal and to represent this goal with their own way. Secondly, we invited dancers from the renowned Guaíra Theater located here in our capital, Curitiba, and asked each dancer to choose a goal and to do a 1-minute performance relating to that specific goal. Through this type of unusual and creative partnerships, we have managed to engage a large part of the population who would not normally be aware of the SDGs. Also, during the planning phase, we made a comprehensive move to involve all of our 399 municipalities, and 381 of them have signed a pledge to align their policies with the 2030 agenda. In second phase of our strategy, we are working at that moment. We are focused on helping municipalities. That's why, Nicholas, I appreciate what you said regarding partners and the municipalities. And we are focused in helping municipalities to make changes based on their specific needs. Also here in Curitiba, we work with the Youth Action Hub, a group of students created by an initiative of UN National Conference on Trade and Development. And these partnerships help us to spread the 2030 agenda by promoting important dialogue among young people and encouraging development of local projects. Another example is the partnerships we made with an institution that monitors how public money is spent. Although all the institutions are present all over the world, partnerships with them for achieving the global goals are rare. In Paraná State, a State Council of Accounts team proposed a methodology for align the plan policies with the SDGs and their targets. This helped to internalize the SDGs, the agenda, into the state government for all secretaries. In addition, this unit has also started to apply the knowledge of SDGs to carry out its own audits and to evaluate the effectiveness of the government policies based on the SDGs. About international partnerships, we recently signed an MOU between UNITAR and WFO, the World Family Organization, to start a major project in Paraná to empower local leaders. We are committed to bringing our experience and resources to engage and support our municipal leaders. Cities also benefits from our strong academic partnerships with the 7 state universities existing across Paraná. These partnerships have resulted in more than 2,000 research, innovation, and community-based projects linked to the SDGs, and will continue to bear fruits in the future. And before I finish, I'm proud to say that Paraná State is one of the 11 OECD pilots in the world that are part of its territorial approach to the SDGs program, and we are learning a lot from it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Felipe. I mean, fantastic examples. So thank you for bringing all those concrete experiences to the table. Your experience is very valuable, and you have touched upon different, really different dimensions, the international agreements, the work with the youth. But I would like just to strengthen a couple of points. The first one that I loved, which is how you managed to bring communities together around art and culture. In this sense, we have been talking a lot in the past few months how the power of culture that has suffered a lot during this pandemic can really be a way to bring our communities together, to bring the different parts of the society around the goals and the concept of sustainability. Thank you for sharing those experiences, and beautiful also to see how you have managed to kind of pledge and drive the work of the municipalities of the state around the SDGs and supporting them in aligning to development goals. Thanks. We will come back to those to a couple of those points as well later. I will switch to our third panelist now, Ms. Laura Kam, coordinator of the Local 2030 Island Network, and from the Hawaii Local 2030 Hub. Laura, we have been in contact, sharing experiences in the past months, in the past year. The Local 2030 and Hawaii Growth is a well-known sustainability hub. You have been working with different partners, both nationally as well as internationally, on advancing local solutions. I think that you have, like, the context of Hawaii is very complex with the different islands, but also communities and cultures melted into that geographical complexity. How did you work to reflect the voices and priorities of the different stakeholders in your work and in the support that you have been giving to the state government, and how this has translated into initiatives for the implementation of the 2030 agenda? Thank you, Laura. Over to you.
Thank you, Martino. And I guess I'll just begin by sharing a little bit about our experience in Hawaii, recognizing that each community and location needs its own place-based framework. And so what I'll be sharing with you today is what worked for us. and hopefully that there are some lessons that can be applied to other places. So in background, Hawaii Green Growth is a network-based organization that was launched in 2011. It's comprised of over 150 different members from the public sector, private sector, and also civil society. And these are members at the organizational and department level. And so together, the network in 2014, led by our governor, our 4 county mayors, and the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, launched the Aloha Plus Challenge, which is our statewide sustainability framework for 2030. The Aloha Plus Challenge encompasses 6 goals: clean energy transformation, local food production, solid waste reduction, natural resource management, smart sustainable communities, and green workforce and education. And after the SDGs were launched, the Aloha Plus Challenge was recognized as a framework for the local implementation of the SDGs here in Hawaii. And then also in 2018, our network was recognized as one of the Local 2030 hubs. And we're really appreciative of the partnership with Local 2030 Coalition. So following the launch of the Aloha Plus Challenge, we underwent a 3-year stakeholder convening process to figure out, now that we have these 6 goals, how exactly are we going to measure it, and how does the community find value in what we're doing, and how can we see that we're actually making progress on these goals? And so we developed something called the Aloha Plus dashboard, which I can share with you all afterwards. And on the Aloha Plus dashboard, it has over 200 metrics and indicators that we went around to the different communities statewide to figure out how do you measure a smart, sustainable community? How do you measure whether we're making progress on green workforce and education and such goals? And so we can continue this convening today through our working group processes and other forums to ensure that our partnership successfully continues to reflect the voices and priorities of all of the stakeholders involved. So we hold an annual meeting of our members where all of our different members provide representatives to that. And through that, we set our network's priorities for the next 3 years. This is critical because Hawaii Green Growth is not just the secretariat or the staff that's convening it, but it's actually all of the member organizations that are a part of it, really creating the sense that we all together need to provide action forward on the Aloha Plus Challenge, and it's not just the coordinating group. And so all of the priorities that are set during the annual member meeting will be carried out by the partners in their own organizations, and it's their responsibility also to extend that reach into the communities in which they work. So our 3, separately from our annual member meeting, we have 3 working groups. So those convene quarterly. One convenes specifically to continually update the dashboard. So making the dashboard have new metrics on, for example, gender or other areas that we see as current gaps. We have a convening process to identify new metrics for that. That's also led to the ability for us to create our statewide voluntary local review, where we were able to pull the data off of the dashboard to create an update for everyone to see how we're doing. We also convene a policy and legislation working group. So here in Hawaii, we just kicked off the 2022 legislative session at the statewide level. And for that, we bring together all of our network members, and those members talk about the different bills they're working on for the session that can help accomplish the Aloha Plus Challenge. And so really, we convene and hold space where the network can come together and decrease redundancies and become more efficient, and then go off and little coalitions of partners can work together on bills. We also have a local global next generation working group that is focused on hopefully in the future creating a youth advisory council for the Aloha Plus Challenge and helping it to be youth-led, so bottoms up, not top down. And separately from that, we also convene a sustainability business forum where we bring together our 26 of our top CEOs to work together on issues such as carbon offsets, sustainable tourism, which is one of our main drivers of the economy here in Hawaii currently, and then also increasing sustainable business practices. And because of this reach, we were able to do things such as work with our counties on creating hyper-localized dashboards where citizens themselves can input data from the different actions they do, from changing the light bulb to taking different forms of transportation. All of that can be logged on these hyper-localized dashboards, which roll up to our statewide dashboard and then can provide updates on how we're doing with the SDGs with our voluntary local review. And speaking of COVID, we were also able through our network to do a green growth project survey. So we sent out a survey to all of our network members to identify what potential green growth projects could incoming federal funds to help COVID recovery support. And so we were able to get a survey that identified 150 different education and training programs and 9,300 jobs that were available to be taken up with COVID recovery funds and help accomplish the Aloha Plus Challenge and Build Back Better. Thank you, Martino.
Thanks to you, Laura. And I think that I should begin by saying also thank you, because I think that in Hawaii it's like 3 a.m. So thanks a lot for being with us actually in the middle of the night today. Also, I think that really the work that you are doing in Hawaii is, and with the Aloha Plus Challenge, is very, very remarkable, with the integration of the priorities that you have identified, the 6 objectives together with the SDGs, and specifically that participatory process. I saw a video that you kindly shared with us about that explains the whole process, which is personally remarkable and incredible, how you manage to bring communities and all the stakeholders in the Hawaii territory around those goals, but also involving them in the monitoring. Because at the end of the day, it's a bit also what Nicholas was saying at the beginning. We need to gather them around a sole strategy, a unique objective, so that we are actually able to understand which is the impact of our territory and our stakeholders. And you have been doing it greatly, Laura. Thanks a lot. I'm passing the word now to our last guest, Minerva Novero, which is policy specialist within UNDP and let's say the closest partner within the Local 2030 Coalition. UN Habitat and UNDP co-chair the Local 2030 Coalition, the UN-wide initiative on localizing the SDGs that really aims a bit at what supporting what we are discussing here today. Minerva, I'm thinking that the Secretary General report on our common agenda highlights the importance of partnerships, highlights the role of local communities, local governments in advancing sustainable development. What do you think is the role of the UN and the multilateral system in advancing these partnerships, and how can the Local 2030 Coalition facilitate the work between partners to advance the localization of the SDGs? Over to you, Minerva, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Martino. It's a pleasure to be here. Greetings from New York, colleagues. Good morning. It's been a pleasure indeed to hear our colleagues who have spoken before me. It's one of these events and forums and an opportunity really to hear straight from our partners what's going on, what they're doing. And even just this morning, I already heard in the first 20 or so minutes, methodologies and tools that could really help us in what we do. So we look forward to learning more about what you have shared. In responding to the question, Martino, We would like to thank, first of all, the close collaboration with UN Habitat as well. It's an honor to be with you, co-chairing the Local 2030 Coalition. At UNDP, we see the role of multilateral organizations like the UN and specifically UNDP as just exactly what you noted, as enabler and facilitator of partnerships, without which achieving what we were established to do would not be possible. So in responding, I would like to first of all note how or frame why we see multi-stakeholder partnerships are important, and then describe a little bit on our approach and our role, and then the value added by the Local 2030 Coalition. So we face today really complex challenges. They're immense in magnitude, they're urgent in nature, and they're interconnected and interlocking in dimensions. And our colleagues on the panel have already spoken a bit on this. So all of these challenges require all hands on deck. Not just all hands on deck, but really working closely together and on integrated solutions that are designed for lasting impact. The 2030 agenda and the new urban agenda, they provide a frame for the global challenges and priorities that we need to act on together. And there are goals and targets there that we need to keep an eye on. And the urgency is there, and Martina has already alluded to it. We're halfway through the 2030 mark. It's only 8 years away. And so we need more efforts and more partners on board, given also the challenges that have been complicated and compounded further by the pandemic. And on this, I must commend our local partners, in fact, because they have been the frontliners in the fight against COVID, especially those who are working at the city level, that have been the epicenters of the pandemic. So the crisis, unlike any other that we have seen in the United Nations history, as it has been called, has unraveled decades of sustainable development gains. So we need to recover from all these setbacks and get back on track to 2030. So to ensure recovery that is truly inclusive, resilient, and long-lasting, we need to be decisive in our efforts and really leverage all resources that we have and intellectual capital that we have. The UN Secretary General, you will recall, in September 2021, and Martina, thank you for referencing this, in our common agenda, he presented two scenarios before us. One of breakdown and perpetual crisis, and the other is breakthrough to a greener, safer future. So in the common agenda, he underlined two urgent options. We continue business as usual, doing the way we have been doing, knowing the outcomes, or averting disaster and securing a sustainable future. So the option he called for, which is obviously sustainable future, that calls for renewed multilateralism, ensuring global decision-making and action that are bold enough to make a difference, that are inclusive and integrated rather than fragmented, and fixed, as I said, on long-term goals. Now, among the recommendations received and adopted by the Secretary General in taking forward our common agenda is enhancing partnerships and enhancing the role of local stakeholders in addressing our global challenges and priorities. This recognizes, and we have heard it from the beginning of this session, the local dimensions of our global challenges and of the global trends, and the role of local actors and the need for coordinated action, multi-level. And Nicholas has already spoken about this, the vertical and the horizontal need for coordination. And this also recognizes that multilateral organizations like UNDP, UN Habitat, the UN, are best placed to help make this happen, and really need to make this happen in order to achieve the mandates that we have been entrusted with. So how do we do this at UNDP? We engage with our partners at various levels. Let me speak first on the programmatic side. As you know, UNDP is 175 countries and territories. We have a lot of efforts going on everywhere across regions. And we ensure that we need to do more of this, we consult with our local partners when we develop these programs to ensure local context, to ensure that those who need to be part of the solutions are there. And we do know, just as we have heard in just minutes ago, the various tools, methodologies, intellectual capital that our partners at the local level have in order to achieve what we need to do. So we also ensure the spaces like this one, where we can consult, where we can have a dialogue. And it's not just for us to discover out there who is doing what, but really to have a systematic way for knowledge exchange and for helping inform national to global action, or from the local to national to global, and to make sure that they are really anchored in local context, as I said. The alignment is always a challenge, and from the local to the national, knowing the priorities, and they differ context to context, and it's necessary to make sure that our eye is on the horizon where we need to be. So as I said, critical to get this done in a systematic way. And this is where the local 2030 coalition actually is very not only catalytic, but quite revolutionary. In fact, people might think that why didn't we do this much earlier? We have a lot of coalitions that have helped us a great deal, but at the global level, we didn't have that mechanism and push and support across the board for making that happen in a very, very systematic way, as I said. Now, it creates coherence, as colleagues have already noted, across partner profiles from business to government to civil society. But not just that, it's also important to us on our side where we sit, because it provides us enables us the mechanism for coherence also in what we do across the UN. So across the agencies working on SDG localization, for instance. So the added value of the 2030 coalition is immense. We do realize that, and this is the choir that I don't need to preach to, but advancing the integrated approach that is fundamental to achieving both the SDGs and the new urban agenda is going to be a challenge in itself. Having the coalition in existence, it doesn't stop there. In fact, it is a really good beginning for making sure that the collaboration goes forward as designed. Its very nature and structure, in fact, ensures that coordination, coalition, diversity, and ensures that unified voice, and ensures that opportunity for all stakeholders to have the same opportunity to raise their voice. So we build local capacities also for a future tied to global shifts, local capacities from the local communities to the governments. And we have seen they have borne much of the pressures during COVID, and they need more support from all partners. And we are delighted, as I said, to co-chair the local 2030 coalition with UN Habitat. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Minerva, for the very comprehensive insights. And I'm going to pick up from one line that you've mentioned, be the role of the UN multilateral system in providing spaces for local and regional governments, local communities, local initiatives at local level to actually discuss, exchange, but also share experiences and inspire. You rightly mentioned the work of the UN itself. To be honest, I've been working on my SDG localization for the past almost 10 years of my life at this point, and all the innovation and everything that we know comes from the local level. We are not reinventing the wheel. We are just gathering, systematizing, and then resharing. So the real value and what we have been doing within the UN itself comes from our local partners. another mechanism of multi-level partnership here also within the UN itself. And thanks also for mentioning the work of Local 2030. I think we will have many occasions in the long roadmap of events that we have in 2022 to engage in the context of the renewed coalition that I all invite to join. Now, colleagues, we had in mind to go actually a bit beyond with a different set of questions. Actually, we have 5 minutes left because we should be closing at 50. We have some 5 minutes left that we can take and that we are granted from the colleagues of the Partnership Forum. So I will kindly ask you, partners, speakers, to, in 1 minute, what you would bring home, which is the message that you would like to pass to our participants today, to the colleagues that have joined us into the debate, which is the added value of multi-level and multi-stakeholder partnerships. What is the message that you would like to pass today? What would you like to leave and what would you like our participants to go home with? And I will start with Minerva, so that we go at backwards this time.
From our end, Martino and colleagues, we would really hope to see the coalition and all local to global coalitions and collaborations to remain and become even more meaningful. Getting together is not the end point. So getting together is just a start, especially for a coalition like the Local 2030 coalition. And we need to ensure that our collaboration together is indeed coherent. The way we operationalize our collaboration is important and meaningful for all stakeholders, and obviously focused on impact at the local level.
Thank you, Minerva. Thanks a lot. Laura, over to you.
I would like to share just the importance of having trust-based relationships as we're building these coalitions and coming up with goals together. We all need to find things in common that we can agree on and focus on that in order to move action forward and not get hung up on making perfect the enemy of the good, or making sure that we need to focus on what we can do together rather than our differences.
Absolutely, very well. And let me add on this point that 1 + 1 is not equals 2, 1 + 1 is equal 5. Okay, so the power of the partnerships and the strength and the focus on what we can achieve together is much more when we come together as partners. Felipe, over to you, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Listen, I think we have mayors with a lot of needs and municipalities with a lot of problems, and they are waiting for our answers. They are a bit loose with the pandemic, with a lot of problems that they are facing in your daily. And here in the room, for example, we have a lot of knowledge, and the audience also. So for me, the heart of the story is find a manner to touch the heart of the mayors and to really help them to face what they are expecting from us. Because UNDP, UN Habitat, SEDES, everything, there is no sense or nothing of this if you are not there and listen to them and try to pass our experience to them. And I'm sure that we are capable for that.
Absolutely, absolutely, Felipe. And I think if I can extract something from what you're saying, you're touching upon the very important concept of ownership. So how can we enhance the ownership of the agenda itself at the municipal level through the work that you're doing? And again, partnerships, building together, working together across levels can help us in fostering the ownership and also the political ownership of the agenda itself. Nicolas, the word is yours to close the panel.
Okay, so I will just continue and building on what you were saying together with Felipe. I think that an incredible added value of partnership is also that it gives sustainability in the long, medium and long term to the work that we are doing as local authorities. And it's really the best antidote against the political changes, and it's the best multiplier, in terms of having impact and go beyond 2030 even.
Thank you, Nicolas. We have come to the end of this very interesting panel. Thanks a lot. We have touched upon many different issues from different perspectives, lots of experiences. I mean, the amount of information that you have shared with us on what you're doing, what you're aiming to do, with whom you're doing, how you're doing, it's just incredible. I think I won't try to summarize everything, but I think what came out clearly out of this discussion is that collaboration and the partnership among the different components of society, whether you are a city or a state government, you are let's say non-profit entity like Hawaii, or even UNDP and the UN itself, is key for everything that we are doing, from the beginning to planning to the delivery to the monitoring of the Sustainable Development Goals. Multi-stakeholder, multi-level partnership are an enabler to achieve, and an accelerator, I would also say an accelerator for the achievement of the 2030 agenda. I will leave you with a question for a reflection that I hope that we can take in another panel. In my experience, what is difficult is how can we make partnerships? How can we make participation and inclusion sustainable and structural? How do we move from the ad hoc participation to the structural and sustainable participation of communities? And I will leave you with your thoughts to reply to this question. And I hope that we can take it in the next panel and next discussion. Thanks again to the colleagues of ECOSOC, to all of our panelists, and to the UN Habitat team that was behind the organization of this event. And of course, to all participants. Have a nice afternoon, morning, evening. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. So it was a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.